super friends, and welcome back to another episode of Superhero Saturday, where we talk about the arts of superheroes, storytelling, and so much more. My name is Annie, and before we do anything else, I want to stop and say thank you so much for all of your participation in last week's video. Seriously, I was totally surprised at how many people were able to contribute to the conversation in the comments and in the likes and dislikes and all of that. It was really cool to be able to see us all interacting like that. So thanks for showing up. I am going to do a quick little response video because I did actually watch the Snyder Cut this week, and I have a few things to say. First off, I was mildly impressed, but then again, my expectations were pretty low. So I'm going to give you a quick 10 seconds of the cons, the pros, and my final impression. We're going to start off with the cons, and I just want to say that overall, the biggest problem was that the pacing was just way too slow, especially in the first 2 or 3 hours. I still thought it was pretty grim throughout, and especially a little bit, There was a lot more skin than I expected, and not in the areas that you might expect. It was still pretty unrealistic in a few important areas. I mean, just look at Steppenwolf's weird armor thing. The main Justice League characters were, of course, still problematic because they're just not the characters that I really fell in love with, and there was no real team dynamics, which is what makes this Justice League so super. And the hyper-masculinity was, pungent. And now for the pros. It was definitely more consistent overall than the Whedon version, although there were still a few parts that really made me think, what the heck is going on? It wasn't nearly as gory as I expected, although it was still brutal in some parts and in different ways than I expected. I liked the additional character, and I'm not going to give away any spoilers on that, and the additional character development, which kind of filled in a lot of holes and gave us more room to see what these characters were in this version of the Justice League. The fight scenes were actually the best part of the movie, and by fight scenes, I mean the scenes where there was dialogue and active fighting and not just half an hour of hyper slow-mo. And Henry Cavill's upper lip was much nicer than last time. Final thoughts. Overall, it had much more consistent hope and style than I expected, and I'm glad I watched it, but it's still not gonna ever be my favorite superhero movie, and I'll probably never watch it again. So in that way, my predictions were pretty accurate. But that's not what we came here to talk about today. I want to talk to you guys about my actual favorite superhero movie, probably my favorite movie overall, and why I always prefer colorful superhero movies to the dark, grim, gritty ones like Zack Snyder and Chris Nolan make. The problem with the superhero genre is that most people who are on the outside think that superheroes are just made for kids. I can't tell you how many times that I've been talking with someone and told them that I write superhero stories, and they come back at me with, oh, so they're kids' books? And that's totally fine. Superheroes certainly made a huge impact as a genre for children, and the bright, colorful action sequences are really well fitted for young audiences, especially for things like cartoons. But that's only where the story begins. After all, most superhero fans get their start in childhood. I was personally inspired and shaped as an artist by these cartoon superhero shows that I love and watch all the time, even to this day. I remember when I was a kid, I used to race home from school just to catch the latest episode of Static Shock or Justice League Unlimited, and I would spend hours trying to replicate their artistic styles in my own drawings. They were stories based on hope, faith, goodness, and honestly, just fun. Static especially was a character who loved what he did, and that passion was contagious. The world was always a place worth saving, and even though new bad guys would crop up or return every single week, it was our duty and our pleasure to continue fighting the good fight, and to rehabilitate bad guys whenever possible. And all of this was presented in bright technicolor. I mean, what else would you do? You can't have that much hope and just stay in the grayscale. When we grow up and realize just how hard it is to fight the good fight in real life, it's only natural that some of us will lose a bit of that sparkle. The world is a tough place, and serving justice is hardly ever wrapped up in 22 minutes or less, if at all. But the point of making and absorbing these colorful superhero stories, even as we grow older, is kind of like an innocence booster shot, or a happiness tonic. It's a much needed reminder that it's all worth it in the end. When I write superhero stories, I strive to create characters that will spark joy, if you will. I write plots that have a fair dash of realism and common sense, but are also seasoned with a lot of fun. I make stories that will serve as pillars of hope and will hopefully inspire people in the real world to become the heroes that we all need and cherish. That is why I will always prefer bright, colorful superhero stories to ones that are dark, gritty, and bleak. And that's why my favorite superhero movie of all time is Spider-Man Into the SpiderVerse. I've probably already talked about this movie on my channel a few times, but I'm gonna talk about it again because it's just that awesome. This is a movie that started out kind of confusing for audiences. I mean, the concept was really weird. Just throw a bunch of different random, unique spider characters into the same universe and then cram them into the same team? I mean, that's crazy, right?
This could literally not get any weirder.
It can get weirder. I just washed my hands. That's why they're wet. No other reason.
But they had the opportunity and they ran with it and it worked. Not only did it work, but it became a work of art. It incorporated and canonized these characters from all sorts of different places and styles into one coherent multiverse. It was entertaining, relatable, lighthearted, and perfectly paced from start to finish. Plus, as one random person on the internet stated, sorry, I can't find the reference anymore. I think it was on Pinterest, but it was probably stolen from somewhere else. I don't know. It celebrated a variety of artistic mediums that have been consistently underrated and disrespected. From hand-drawn comic books to cartoons to 3D animation to graffiti to hip-hop and rap and even into fan fiction. The artists on this team pooled their passions and worked together with great freedom to create something that had never really been seen on this level before. I haven't verified this, but I heard that it took them 40 man-hours to create each individual frame of this movie. Each frame of like a 2-hour movie. That's incredible. In the end, everything came together to create this beautiful masterpiece that has and will always have a permanent home in my heart. And honestly, I think this represents the future of superhero storytelling. And it's why stories like Zack Snyder's Justice League are really relics of the past. We've been telling superhero stories for 100 years now, and much of that time has been spent on the same handful of characters. There's only so far that you can darken a hero up until you're just left with a moody vigilante or just a straight up supervillain. We're even running out of room for plausible remakes of the originals. After all, the majority of these characters originated well before the digital age. So characters like Clark Kent, a print newspaper journalist, just need a whole lot of retrofitting before they can even make sense in the modern world. I think the future of superhero storytelling is going to be with new heroes who recognize their place in history and understand the past that their stories have been built on, but look forward to a brighter, more original future. And that starts with epic, beautiful stories like Into the SpiderVerse.
One thing I know for sure, don't do it like me. Do it like you.
Brooklyn!
Gonna stop us now. Hey, I'm all in, I'm all in. I ain't worried about a loss or a new friend. Never worried about a fraud or a new bitch. Lost love, I ain't worried about a process.
What are your favorite superhero stories, super friends? And where do you think the future of this genre is going? Did you actually sit through the whole 4-hour saga that was the Snyder Cut, or did you sleep on it? Head on down to the comments below and join in the conversation. And finally, thanks so much for watching, super friends. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give us a big thumbs up and subscribe if you'd like to see more superheroic content every single Saturday. You can join the team by supporting us on Patreon or following us on social media. And if you'd like to see my own technicolor rainbow of superheroes, go on over to our website at www.fearless9.com, where you can pick up a copy of a book that might just include your new favorite superhero team. Thanks so much for watching, super friends, and we'll see you next week.